Okay, recently I did the review on this Admok M800, and what I want to do today is during that review I mentioned the fact that this pin is a gusher, and I mentioned that one thing that helped was to tighten the nib and feed housing that goes into the grip, and that seemed to help. I was thinking about changing out the nib from the Schmidt nib to a Jovo nib to see if that would help, but I didn't do that. So I had a couple of comments, and one person rightly pointed out that Monteverde inks, which I have Monteverde Horizon Blue in this pen. Monteverde uses this ITF technology, and that's a lubrication, and other pens, other ink manufacturers will use lubricants to help the flow of their inks, especially the saturated inks, because there's more dye in them, and so to make that dye flow better, they put that lubricant as well for the pens that have pistons or the vac fills, the internal working parts. It also helps to lubricate those, apparently. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to write a line with the pen as is. So this still has the Monteverde ink in it, the Horizon Blue, and the Schmidt nib. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a line with the same situation that I did the review. So it's got the Horizon Blue and the Schmidt nib. Let me mark off my boundaries here. So you have the Admok M800 medium, the Horizon Blue. All right, so as I mentioned, this thing writes more like a broad nib. All right, so what I'm going to do before I change the ink is I'm going to swap out this Schmidt nib for a Jovo and see if that helps. Okay, I forgot to hit record as I came back for this, but basically what happened was I went to swap out the Schmidt nib on this Admok M800 with a Jovo nib, and that isn't going to work, as you probably already guessed. The Schmidt nib is a little bit different shape, and so the feed for that would be different shape, and it just wasn't going to fit. I tried to get it in there, but it didn't want to work. So we'll go ahead and hold off on that. So what I did was I got one of my homemades, and I put the Jovo nib on this. This is a Goulet Jovo nib, and I went ahead and wrote this out. Started to write Admok. But anyway, so there's Mike's homemade, and then better put a comma there because I didn't make the Jovo nib. But that's the pen, and then a Jovo medium Monteverde Horizon Blue. Now, there is definite difference in saturation there. And let me yeah. There's definitely a difference in saturation, and I think that's from the ink flow. But so I'm going to go ahead and ink up that Excellence A and see what happens there. All right, so I have my Excellence A here. Now, one of the things I need to point out is the feeds on these two Jovos are different because this is that, see if you can see that very well. This is one of those cheap, what they call cheap plastic feeds, and seems to work okay for me. And then this, on the Diplomat is a Jovo feed. All right, so let's do. All right, so I think you can see there's still a definite difference than what we have on the Admok. And so the now Diplomat uses Jovo nibs, but they grind them themselves. They grind the tips themselves. So these two are very close. There's a slight difference. I want to say that the Diplomat's Jovo is slightly more saturated, but not much. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a drier ink. I'm going to swap out the blue from this and try to find a less saturated, hopefully drier type of ink and use for the Admok. Okay, here we are, and what I'm using right now is Diamine Denim, and let's see how that works. Now I had to flush this out, and I wanted to make sure everything was clean, so I went ahead and pulled this nib and feed unit is in a housing that will twist out by together. But I went ahead and pulled the feed and the nib out and to separate them to be able to clean them more thoroughly. And then I wasn't sure if I didn't think that there was much of a separation in that nib slit, but as I was looking at it through my loop, there was a little bit. Now, before I saw a little bit on this side of it, but the tip was together. But as I got to looking at it earlier, and I think it's because of messing with it, anyway, the tip was a little more separated, so I had to work with that to get that back in line. And then I did the over, where you cross the tines a little bit to try to close that up some. And that seems to help. So I don't know if it's the ink. Like I said, this is Diamine Denim, and I think this is a little bit less saturated. Some of the other inks. I also want to try Autumn Oak, but I don't think I'm going to have to because, make sure this didn't dry out here. We have the Admok M800 medium, and this is Diamine Denim. All right. So that's a much better line, I believe. So the big test is I don't think it's going to make much difference given how these two pins, different. They're supposed to be both Jovo nibs, but Diplomat, again, grinds here separately. And they're pretty similar and similar to this as well. So I don't know if we're gonna see that kind of flow. I'm gonna go ahead and ink it up with Horizon Blue again, and we'll see how that goes. All right, are you ready for the verdict? Okay, so far what I've done is I've tried a couple of different other nibs with the same ink, the Monteverde Horizon Blue. That was the nemesis in this pen. And then I tried a little less saturated ink in the same pen, and it seemed to work. But remember what I said was I kind of messed with the nib a little bit to make that adjustment. So this is Horizon Blue. Let's see what happens. Ah, keep wanting to write M88. I don't know why. All right, folks, there you go. Let me try that one more time. See if it looks a little more saturated. Well, I think we figured that out. But anyway, that seems to have been the problem. Like I said, it still is a fairly wet writer, or the ink is more wet. You can tell that. But I am definitely getting a medium line. I feel much better. All right, well, I hope that helps you too. So even if with this pen, I think I just saved this pen. So with this pen or any other pen that seems to really give you too much of a flow, you can check those things. Though that may not be the problem, but you can check those, your tines and stuff. All right, hope that helps. Thanks for watching.